Is Elizabeth Mizon, if that's really her name. She's the third most famous Elizabeth in history after Liz Hurley and the new Elizabeth London Tube Line. She now makes her living opening Aldi's and Western Supermare. Please put your hands together for Elizabeth Mizon!
Hello. This is new, it doesn't have a title yet, so if anybody comes up with like an excellent pun or something, please feel free to tell me later. It's late 2008. You're coming to the end of your film studies degree. You're 20 years old and you're a chronically depressed stoner who believes 9/11 was an inside job. Unfortunately for you, you're me 10 years ago. You form no memories of the financial crash while it happens around you. You're chubby and sad and interpret most things people say to you as thinly veiled digs about one of those things. It will be 2 years before you're diagnosed with a thyroid condition that causes weight gain, mood disorders and exhaustion. On the university jobs board you see a trainee role on feature film. You're possibly selected, possibly first come, first served, but either way, very grateful and excited to work 14-hour days for no pay at the bottom of the pecking order of a group of much older strangers who all know each other, outdoors for 3 weeks in January. Your big break has arrived. The film is called Psychosis. The first few days are on set in Soho. On day one, you arrive to a very small, plastic, windowless studio with a bedroom set built. As the first scene is being shot, you haven't had breakfast. There is a woman in her underwear lying on the bed in the background, staring at a plump German man in the foreground. He asks the director if he should just improvise and go with it. And the line he goes for is, "Never underestimate the aphrodisiacal power of death." You never see that actor again or find out what that scene was about. The very busy camera assistant Steve, who is your boss, begins training you. The first thing to do, he tells you, is to get all the lenses out and air them because they often fog up when they come from cold storage to a hot set full of lights. This is excellent information, you should remember, you think, but you have no pen or paper, and then you're in the art director's way. She has lots of pens and different coloured masking tape in her belt. Everyone is rushing around, so focused on their task at hand, and by 10 AM, your feet and lower back are already starting to hurt. You're trying to watch the camera department work, but the place is very small and you've been asked to either hold a cable in the corner or stand over there in the kitchen bit where the light's broken so it's dark. For the next 4 hours, the only time people address you is to ask you to move out of their way again. Every time we go for a take, the first AD shouts, "Action!" and everybody stops moving and goes silent. At about 2:30 PM on day one, you break down crying. The third AD hugs you and you tell her it's because your boyfriend's had a cancer scare, which is technically true, but he got the all clear a week ago, so you're still a terrible person. Nobody else takes any notice of this, and you get to go and sit down in a car for a bit and have a panic attack. You feel like a failure and you don't understand why you're upset. On day two, you film the rape scene. You're inside what seems to be an abandoned strip club and/or brothel. There's poles and empty hot tubs in various purple and gold painted rooms. It's a closed set, but standing in the next room, holding a reel of cable, you have to watch it on the monitor over and over again. At some point, you're finally bestowed the honour of doing something technical. You're given the clapperboard. You're shown how to slate with a big snap for the sound editor, what to write in the various boxes and what to say. When it's time for you to step into frame and mark it, you trip on the step up to the jacuzzi, recover, quietly recite the slate numbers, and then with the lightest of thuds, bring the clapper down on your finger. Steve takes the slate away from you, and this is the moment, with 2 weeks and 5 days left, that the camera department stops asking you to do anything except fetching and cleaning equipment. The next couple of weeks take place on a big manor house estate in Somerset. You're out in the arse end of nowhere with barely any phone signal or internet, no weed, no friends, and a debilitating mental illness. You will struggle to remember the remaining 2 weeks of the shoot. This could be because you smoked weed from dawn till dusk for several years either side at this point, or it could be because there's no reason for your brain to store hours of standing still being tortured by your thoughts, punctured only by the request for another piece of masking tape for the camera's mark every few hours. But the following details you will take with you. The two lead actors arrive, Charisma Carpenter, best known for her role as Cordelia in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and former builder Paul Scolfer. Paul is now a model, and because his last girlfriend was Jennifer Aniston, and his current girlfriend is Cameron Diaz, he's decided he's also an actor. The longer the shoot goes on, and the longer he deadpans his way through each take, the more frequently he takes phone calls that loudly begin, "Hey babe," as you watch him walk off, dramatically trying to find the best signal on the estate. The estate is beautiful and there's minimal light pollution, and each night delivers a quiet, twinkling blanket of stars. You start to get the emotionally haunting song Vincent by Don McLean stuck in your head, that beginning phrase, "Starry, starry night," coming back again and again like a faulty switch being continually tripped. Your dad, who's an astronomer, used to hum that song to himself around the house, and you miss his friendly steadiness and normality. You feel very disconnected from him and any sense of what you're doing here. Your dad says, "The stars are our chemical parents, that we're all made of star stuff." Don McLean says that there's darkness in the soul, that people would not or will not listen, and that you took your own life. You wonder why the star stuff hasn't done a better job, and how little of any of that makes sense. You think about the fact that you're useless when you're smoking and you're useless when you're sober. Confused, you manage to find signal and ring your mum and tell her some of the things you're thinking. At the middle point of the shoot, she drives to the estate, as your parents have done a handful of times in the past, after nonsensical, desperate phone calls. Together, you consider whether or not you should leave with her. You're really failing here, failing to learn anything, to enjoy it, to understand what your role is. But if you quit, you know you regret it. You don't realise that in this moment you're learning something valuable about how to manage and observe situations that overwhelm you, and it will serve you well in the future. One day in week 2, you're doing one of the few jobs you're still allowed to do for the camera department, lugging a squeaky metal trolley that houses the old TV monitor, on which the director watches the feed from the camera. But today you're shooting in thick woodland after heavy rainfall, as you push what's essentially a cheap serving cart through thick mud, thinking about how you'll need to clean it and get the leaves out of the wheel joints when we return to the unit base, you fall behind. 15 minutes later, when you finally catch up, you're informed that they decided not to use the monitor today. They tell you to push it back. You start to rebel. Everyone staying in the manor house is supposed to take their muddy boots off around the big manor house. You resent having to unlace your boots every time you go in and out of the door to fetch something. The very nice makeup girls with whom you share a floor space in one of the rooms have a conspicuously public conversation about why there's mud all over the floor. You never take responsibility for this, even though you're the only one of the 4 of you who is based outside with big muddy boots on all the time. They never have a go at you or address it again. On the last day is a final closed set for the scene where 2 of the characters inexplicably do mushrooms and have anal sex. While you're in an empty room on another 3-hour standby, you find the makeup girls also on standby and pluck up the courage to ask them to put some makeup on you. They take pity on you and oblige, and don't take the opportunity to confront you about the mud, which you've had, about your muddy boots, which you've had the sense to take off today. Halfway through, you get told off for not being on standby. Steve needed a piece of masking tape and you weren't there for him. You finish shooting early and everyone has the evening off. For the first time, you relax. You chat to people and people chat back to you. You start finding ways to be helpful. Someone's going to do a big drinks run at the nearest supermarket, so you wander around taking orders. You feel a part of this suddenly. Legendary TV actor Bernard Kay, who you used to watch in the BBC medical soap opera Doctors when you were first signed off school for a while, asks you to get him a bottle of Rioja. He does not take the piss out of you when you look at him blankly, and does not patronise you when he has to spell Rioja. When you tell him that you should know what Rioja is because your mum drinks red wine, and you used to be the only person in the top spelling group in first school, he does not stamp on your tiny, fragile ego. You decide Bernard Kay is your favourite actor in the country. With everyone a little drunk, you eavesdrop on Charisma Carpenter, giving the very smarmy producer a fiery but quiet talking to for leaking her name to the press. "So, I'm the reason you're getting paid," she says. You don't understand why she's upset or what this really means, but it's fascinating. For the first time, you're watching someone else in this team unfocused and out of their element. The producer tries to defend himself, but she won't let him off the hook. You realise how easily fallible he is suddenly, that his decisions don't always work out for him either. He isn't in complete control. Before before you leave, you walk around cheerfully saying, "See you at the premiere," to people you only started speaking to the previous night. You are never contacted by the producers again. You wonder whether the film ever made it to screen. You start to question your career choices, and a couple of years later, newly diagnosed with a thyroid issue and properly diagnosed with anxiety, and considerably happier and healthier on the right medication, you embark on a master's in specifically documentary filmmaking. You learn a lot about yourself as an introvert, about what you need and enjoy, about your skills, and about managing stress and overwhelm by hanging back and observing. A couple more years later, you get curious. You look the film up online, and there it is. You very quickly find a pirated copy. The film is shit and you are not credited.